All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the inaugural Calamity Jane Adventure Hour video diary. My name is Eric Studer. I'm one of the co-creators of the cartoon.
Hello, and I'm James Jacob, another co-creator of the cartoon.
And it is a pleasure to have our audience with us today. James, today we're going to be talking about a new location for the cartoon, and I wanted to get your thoughts on exactly why you're going about this the way that you're going about it.
Well, as we were working through the story, we get to a point where Calamity Jane, our heroine, needs to enter a bar type of situation. So I am kind of just experimenting, as you see here, with color palette and trying to get this color palette is actually kind of a generic kind of a feel, so I want to keep it kind of neutral for now.
Is there a reason why you like to keep it neutral?
Yeah, because I want to think about color a little bit later. I want to think about layout, and I want to think about the structure of the space first, and then I'll think about color later. What's funny is color's in my head, and I know what I kind of wanted to do, especially when I was drawing this particular layout. But I still want to keep everything kind of black and whitish, or with a tan background to kind of just keep everything kind of muted and just think about line work and shapes.
And what kind of structure do you start with? How do you start anchoring the environment when you go about thumbnailing it like this?
I like to think about a scene that's kind of, for lack of better description, it would be like an anchor type scene, like a scene that's really kind of helps set the stage of what we see through Calamity Jane's eyes as she enters a new venue. So in this case, I'm actually kind of trying to set up the venue in a way where we get a really good kind of landscape kind of view of the bar. So you can see here, I'm actually kind of doing the saddle swing doors of where she's going to enter. Like, how is this going to feel when she enters in? So I want to actually be inside the space and kind of feel like where she can actually walk around, what's in the bar itself. And it's in my head, and I just have to figure out a way to get it out on digital paper.
Well, I think it's a good transition point, because what I wanted to talk about is what is this location, and this is the Prickly Pear. This is the saloon that most of the characters are going to spend a fair amount of time in. It's a central location in the town of Dry Gulp Gorge, where most of Calamity Jane's show takes place in, and the inspirations for the saloon are pretty interesting. Mitchell Winchester, who we'll talk about in a little bit more and later on in the video, is a bit of an oddball in that he's kind of a failed stand-up comedian, and he exists in the Dry Gulp Gorge town and owns the Prickly Pear. And because he's a failed stand-up comedian, the saloon has taken on an odd kind of blend of two different locations. It's actually part Western style bar and part stand-up comedy club. James, you want to speak to that a little bit, and how you go about managing those two very different themes into one single location?
Well, as you mentioned, he is a comedian. When we talked about Mitchell Winchester, we knew that he needed to be we needed a bartender in our typical Western type of town. We knew what we wanted there, but as we kind of discussed him, he seemed to be a really integral part into Calamity Jane's life when she kind of takes respite, or she's kind of in town, kind of getting the feel for what's happening in this world. So Mitchell Winchester, in a way, is a pretty important messenger for her, and an icon for the town. But I also wanted them, I kind of, we knew that we wanted something kind of special with him too. So we didn't want him to be just a classic handlebar mustache, kind of big burly barrel-chested guy that sits behind the counter and strong silent type. We wanted something a little bit different. So I started.
And that was your idea too, because in the original draft of the pilot, I literally just had him as the generic, stereotypical Western handlebar mustache with an apron barkeep. And you said, no, that's boring. And I went, yes, you're right. Thank you for pointing out that I'm a terrible writer. What would you like to see?
No, that wasn't. That's not a terrible writer. Is not what it is. I mean, it was just a matter of let's just kind of pick at the edges here a little bit, and what can we do a little bit differently here? And I don't know if I don't know whether we should save this for later or not. But the inspiration for Mitchell Winchester was, if I recall, was I was telling you about
Shh,
how.
don't give it away. That's later. We'll talk
Okay.
about that later.
All right. So that's why I kind of lead up, have a long lead in as to the origin as to
That's
who
right.
Mitchell Winchester. Okay.
That's right.
Anyway,
We'll get to that in a little bit,
yeah.
but in any case, so as you can see, this is the finished shot of basically a master of the entirety of the saloon, and you can see that from this angle, for the most part, you could view it as a saloon. But what is interesting is that it also has a central red carpet way and a with an array of lights next to it, which kind of betrays the reverse that we're going to see here once James finishes saving his file in just a moment.
I'm really
Um,
slow in Windows, and I
I
like to
don't.
look at my folders a lot.
You're an Ubuntu kind of guy, right? You're used to that kind of operating system. Windows is you're too cool for school as far as Windows is concerned.
To kind of go back to something else, you were kind of leading me to kind of add to for the bar.
Yeah.
The main thing I was going for was, yes, we needed a Western bar, but also I wanted to do a comedy club or like a comedy
Mm-hmm.
store. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, when you head out to LA or you head out to a comedy store or comedy, a comedy bar scenario, like I think about how we want to have it kind of an open space for people to kind of sit down and laugh and look at a stage.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so if that helps to answer that question about like what we're
Yeah,
trying
and
to
I
go
think
for.
that explains why you've got those central tables along the way. I mean, that's something that you see in a lot of comedy clubs. These isolated tables that people sit around and at least from this angle, I really like the where your initially headspace is. You've got the stuff on the back of the wall, the old timey paintings and that kind of thing, the saloon doors, and then that central carpetway. And that's a perfect opportunity to talk about this new position. So now we've gone and you started working on the reverse angle of this,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll see emerge here as you continue drawing. And I wanted to discuss a little bit about the different camera positions that you're going to be building for the saloon. Now, because it's a cartoon and we don't have the luxury of real sets that you can just move the camera around and then thereby completely changing the composition of the shot, every camera position that you have in the show has to be drawn, has to be thought about. Walk us through a little bit about why you choose the camera angles that you choose to draw as we start moving into this new camera position.
So as I kind of echoed before, I wanted to kind of see some things through Calamity Jane's eyes. And of course, I was hypocritical with that last shot because that's not from Calamity Jane's eyes at all. And it's actually from
Mm-hmm.
the perspective of a bar patron or maybe even Mitchell himself, who is now central in this particular drawing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but to echo back to Calamity Jane's eyes, this is how I would envision her seeing him for the first time in a way. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe one of the many times when she comes into the bar to just take a break. And then there
Mm-hmm.
he is waiting with a joke joke at the ready, um, that type of stuff. So, I mean, I wanted to kind of get a feel for, like, what is the bar like when you walk in? And who do you see first? What does it feel like to walk in and get a drink?
Yep. And that, I think, is a perfect opportunity. You can see Mitchell forming before us right now, and you'll notice that his head is a square. Well, when the character design is complete, it's actually a paper bag. And he has a very specific real world inspiration. And do you want to walk us, because this was your idea, you want to walk us through where that came from?
So
Who that
am I
is?
allowed to reveal this classified information or not? Is it considered classified? I don't know.
Well, I'm saying that we can do it, and since we're
Okay.
the arbiters of ourselves.
Sure. I wanted to do a throwback to the mystery comedian from The Gong Show. I can't remember what his appropriate or his official
The
name.
unknown
The
comedian,
unknown,
or
is it the unknown comic? I believe it's the
the
unknown
unknown
comic.
comic. That's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always I always missed that guy. I loved watching him on The Gong Show when I was a kid, and I just wanted to find an excuse to see him again.
Yep.
Um,
And when you
essentially,
suggested it, well, go ahead.
yeah, essentially this is where he ended up. Like this, he's still around doing jokes, and he now
Just a
runs
dry
this.
gulp gourd.
And now this is his new venue to share his jokes.
And when you pitched that idea, I immediately fell in love with it, and I went back and rewrote every scene that he was in. And I don't want to spoil the gag, but there is a character trait, an affectation that I added to him as a result of of the change. And I think that once you start seeing that, you're gonna really, really love it.
Yeah,
But yeah.
and this is
But that was
where,
really, oh yeah,
and this
yeah,
is
and
where,
now,
yeah,
oh, go ahead.
this is where I wanted you to, I just want to throw out a little idea, a little bit of chaos into
Oh,
our
okay.
world, and
We're
here
getting
you
a little bit of
go.
inside baseball here for
Yeah,
all the fans. Okay, toss it to me.
yep, and that's it. That's the idea is having you write with my weird, you know, kinks in throwing stuff at you, and like another ninja star idea, and see if it sticks or not.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on the inaugural video podcast, and we will plan on doing a lot more of these. So hopefully you'll come back and learn a little bit more about the creation process of the Calamity Jane Adventure Hour. This is Eric signing off.
This is James signing off.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.